When you go to altitude in a plane, in about 15 minutes, it's like climbing an 8,000-foot mountain. And so you're getting flavors of decompression and altitude sickness. And the longer you're in that plane, the worse it is because you're exposed to that low oxygen for longer. But this inflammation happens every time we fly, no matter how short the flight is. That's why your legs can swell. Swelling is inflammation, vascular leakage, brain fog. Lots of people have gut issues. And so what we figured out is
Drew, I am super excited to have you here and excited to have a conversation, especially with your company and what you do. I just got up at the crack of dawn this morning, flew out, was delayed, sat on the runway during the government shutdown. It's been quite a unique time to fly, and it does drain you. So I'm looking forward to having a conversation with someone who's helping to change the game.
well, hey, great to be here, Scott. I'm really looking forward to talking about it. And yeah, we probably could help you out a little bit this morning.
Yeah, it's really funny. I was out in Phoenix at an event for called Genius Network that I go to about with entrepreneurs and authors and all kinds of unique individuals that tend to be like us in the room. And I think you know what I mean when they're the high intensity, I want to change the world kind of people. And flying back from Phoenix was quite a unique experience. Most of the people that I was talking to had got delayed or canceled and weren't making it in. And just a 10% reduction was adding additional stress and breakdown to everybody. And so I was home for a day and then I got right back on the plane this morning and flew to New York. So it's been one of those times where I definitely have to tap into the coffee or the added resources. So what drew you to really create something around this problem? It sounds like you focus on performance, but I'm really interested in understanding the story just a little bit deeper.
Yeah, so I'll try to pull it all together, but do the quick version. I would say if I lived my life 10 times, I would have been a doctor, 5 of them. My dad's a doctor. I grew up around it. I think the part I found most interesting was sort of the detective work to figure out what was going on. There were all these clues from data and other things. My mom's side of the family is military, military, military. And so that was really present for me. And my dad had served too. And so, I found a program in college where I could do science, technology, national security. Fast forward to grad school, the government paid for me to go to grad school. I ended up getting a master's in immunology, a master's in health physics, a third one in national security policy. I have this weird background. Somebody walks into the career center and says, "Hey, Andrew, we need someone who does biology, national security, and can write." And they're like, "Well, we know this guy, Andrew." So serendipity strikes, synchronicity strikes. And that got me on into this field of sort of human performance optimization. Started working for a think tank in the Pentagon that's sort of the Secretary of Defense's future looking strategy and big thing shop. And so I was really given a remit to think broadly about performance, think about what would change in the future. And then on the side, I started coaching executives because, some of the stuff we were doing for the military and the things I'd experiment on myself, you start to learn about this, it's hard not to want to use it. And people who are high performers want access to this and want to perform better. And so this guy, David, comes to me. I'm coaching him, doing great stuff. He's feeling great. It's like, hey, we regularly fly to Korea to close business deals from DC at this time. We land at 4 p.m. There's a big dinner that night. They want to negotiate at 7 a.m. the next morning. They're using jet lag as a negotiating tool. Like, it's working. Like, what can we do? It's like, great. When do you go in next? Tuesday. Note, it was Sunday. I was like, great, David. I'll get you something tomorrow. And so I sat down and I thought of, for the first time, really comprehensively about how to solve jet lag. And the story of what happens later and how we solved it is part of that. But a series of synchronicities that put me in these environments with the military and thinking about performance, thinking about people who needed to perform in unique ways, things I learned working with the SEALs about pressure changes that become relevant to when you fly because the pressure changes a lot in planes. And then somebody asking a question that then I wanted to solve for them. And so all those things together, and I can, happy to talk about how it works and other things, but all sort of this very strange, very unique set of circumstances that I was put in over and over led to this moment of somebody asking me the question so that I could put something together. And then I got an email from Seoul, Korea 2 days later being like, "Hey, Andrew, what did you do? I just slept 8 hours my first night."
Wow. Yeah, it's super powerful. And you're talking to someone who's definitely a high performer, definitely spends a lot of times on planes, and has been back and forth to the West Coast and the East Coast a multitude of times just in the last month. And it just wears on you. And I've found my own ways of doing it, but I'm excited. I actually sent a buddy of mine, retired Navy SEAL. I sent him your website last night, and I said, "Do you know this guy? Have you used this stuff yet?" And he goes, "I don't, but I will be using it immediately just by reading over." And so I think that it's very normal for high performers to already have a low tank after pushing and having that high intensity and doing things at an extreme level, whatever that industry is. And but you take on the flying and it can really, really change you. And it's interesting they would use it as a tactic, but I could see how that's very valuable. So you came in, you saved the day, and from there, bring us into the product. Like, how did you take
Yeah.
that example and develop it?
So here's sort of like all the things that came together. I was working with, you spend time in Virginia Beach, a lot of Navy SEALs there.
Right.
I had gotten to know some guys based out in Hawaii and was trying to figure out a problem they had around diving and how to sustain performance on very long dive missions. And one of the things I learned in this process is there was some really very cool cutting edge research showing the pressure changes in diving cause inflammation in the body. And this is actually one of the main mechanisms, even maybe the cause. There's some debate on this of bends and decompression sickness. Now, anyone who's trained to go scuba diving know that you're also not allowed to fly after you dive, meaning the pressure change in flight is enough to trigger this issue again. There's the older stories about nitrogen bubbles and then coming out, and that may play a part in it also. But long story short, I was able to track forward that the even when you're not scuba diving, just a person living their normal life, when you go to altitude in a plane, in about 15 minutes, it's like climbing an 8,000-foot mountain. The pressure changes to about 8,000 feet relative, 26% less oxygen. And so you're getting flavors of decompression and altitude sickness because of the rapidity with which this is happening. And the longer you're in that plane, the worse it is because you're exposed to that low oxygen for longer. And the real trick is that you can stop that. So then people are like, wait, so you're saying jet lag isn't just circadian or isn't circadian rhythm at all? And I'm like, no, no, no. What I'm saying is the inflammation plus the circadian shift is why jet lag is so bad. And also, by the way, some people will fly, if you fly from the US down to South America, it's a long flight, but very little time change. People feel terrible after that flight too. Why? Because the inflammation is there. But now what about domestic flights? 5 hours? Absolutely. 3 hours? Absolutely. So it turns out that some people are more and less susceptible, like anything, our bodies are different person to person. But this inflammation happens every time we fly, no matter how short the flight is. And then that's why, your legs can swell. Swelling is inflammation, vascular leakage, brain fog. Lots of people have gut issues. I think it's just the stress of travel, but like either bloating, constipation. Women report a lot of constipation when they fly. Um, all these things are, gut inflammation. We know causes these things. Brain fog. We know that when we're inflamed, the actual immune cells and these cytokines, these immune compounds transit into the brain and change the way the brain metabolizes energy so you feel more tired. So all these things are secondary to this flight induced inflammation. And then if you have a circadian shift on top of it and you're flying long distance, then it prevents you from resetting your circadian rhythm. And so what we figured out is how can we use supplements, safe things, over the counter, non-prescription, all natural, mostly organic. How can we use these things to block that flight inflammation, keep your levels low and healthy, and then use all the tools, light, supplements, blue light blocking glasses at the right times, sleep timing. A lot of people sleep too much when they fly, actually, for jet lag. So just flip your circadian rhythm super quickly. And it turns out that what we found is if you use all the tools together, you can flip your circadian rhythm overnight. And when you go to Japan or Sydney, Australia, or London, or wherever you're going, you can sleep well your first night. And so that is what the product does. But I just talked about like 20 different things, and you're a smart guy, and people could kind of try and put this program together. But the fact is, like, we've had to develop the most sophisticated sleep and circadian rhythm monitoring algorithm in the world to do this and give you a custom program. So you could figure some of this stuff out yourself, but like, we also want to make it easy. So what do we sell you? You get a kit. It's got all the different supplements you need. It's got these really great light blocking glasses. Then we have an app that gives you a custom program for when to eat, sleep, and use the stuff in your kit. And more than 90% of people are going to Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa with minimal to no jet lag. And in a study with Inter Miami, the pro soccer team where Messi plays last year, they did a 5 match, 4 country, fully round the world trip. They went, they went from the US to Latin America, Middle East, Asia, all the way back around. And they saw in the players who used FlyKit, they saw 94% less travel symptoms than the players who did not.
Wow, that's powerful. Very familiar. My son plays for an academy, and was just in Montreal this weekend. And they fly up to Montreal. The weather's rough, no time change, but they're still in the plane. The kids
Yep.
are there for less than 24 hours, basically. By the time you're there, you play, you're flying right back out the next morning, or sometimes that evening. I can see how someone that's doing this continuously across the country, how it would make such a major difference. And all those things you mentioned, you did talk about a lot of things, but it resonates with just about anybody that's traveled and or travels, for any purpose. If let's say it's the first time you've ever been to Europe, the last thing you want to
Yeah.
do is waste time feeling tired and foggy and unable to catch up a day or two in. Plus, most people have to go back to their real job when they come back, and so that becomes a challenge for me. I do a lot of traveling where I'm speaking, or I'm on stage doing some kind of panelist, or working in some capacity where I'm at a conference and it's high intensity, and that it does drain you. It's because you couple that now with later dinners, with
Yeah.
alcohol intake, like whatever it may be. It's like that consistent um, challenge, and so it's extremely intriguing to me. I was geeking out looking at the website and just kind of thinking about all the things that this could change for people in this world where when you're traveling all the time, people are looking for that edge, and it just sounds like you've put together something special.
I appreciate that. That's very kind. Yeah. I mean, for the conference thing, the other thing, you're a speaker. Um, what does inflammation do? It also distracts your immune system. And when your immune system is distracted, you're more likely to get sick. And so, a lot of people get sick when they travel. And the idea used to be, well, you're sitting in a plane, you're near all these people, or you're in an airport with all these people. I'd say one, you're in a mall with that many people and you don't get sick as usual as often as you do. And two, the air filtration on planes is actually quite good. Now there's all kinds of problems with the air on planes that I'm not going to get into around like bleed air coming in through the jet, the engines, you get exhaust in the plane. But in terms of like actual microorganisms getting sick, we think it's probably the case that what's really going on is that the inflammation then drops your defenses. And so it's not so much that you're exposed to more, it's that your defenses are down and we're always being exposed to a little, but our immune system just knocks it out. And in these cases, it doesn't. And as you know, if you show up to give a talk sick, we're never at our best then.
No, it's the worst. It's funny, I started doing IVs. So one of the things that I used to combat it, to the best of my ability, of course, I didn't know your product existed at the time, but I would just go in and get an IV on the front end or the back end of a major trip. So, a couple weeks ago, I was on the road for like 3 to 4 weeks consecutively, where I had very limited time to come home and have a home base. And we're also doing a remodel in our home, so we're not even in the home. So now I have no real bed, no real home. Like you're in a different environment, so you're still sleeping in a different bed. So the IV has been the thing that kind of, it just gives me a little bit of an immune booster, the B12, the zinc, whatever it is. But it does, I think, coupled with all the other things you mentioned, even the light and circadian rhythm, just getting on the right rhythm can play such a major part. How's the diet side? So walk me through some of that research and some of the conversation there, because I think that's always a challenge people have. Like, do we stay on our our previous um, time zone? Do we transition? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so in terms of eating, you can think of it 2 ways. Some people will fast because they have just empirically figured out they feel better. Why? Well, when you fast, it lowers inflammation because you're pulling energy out of the system. Your body has to stop spending energy somewhere. Immune cells are one of those areas. Um, but then you're traveling and potentially really stressed on no food, and we all know when we're low food hangry, like, many people don't handle stress as well. So we actually take a different approach, which is to say, we want you to be eating regularly, but eating things that are low inflammatory, so higher protein, lower carb, veggies and stuff, definitely good. And then we want you to we want you to eat throughout so your brain is supported, but then we want you to stop eating ideally 4 hours, but minimum 3 hours before bed, whatever bedtime you wanna go to bed at your destination. One of the things people don't take into account is, let's say you're going to a conference, you normally go to bed at 10 PM, now you're gonna go to bed at midnight because there's a conference and a lot of the business there, a lot of the insights come out late, and you're talking to people, maybe you're in a bar or whatever. Um, so you have to take into account your actual circadian rhythm. So, you know, you could do a 3-hour time change domestically, but then you're staying up 2 hours later, so now it's a 5-hour time change.
Right.
These things matter. So we take all that into account, and we're gonna want you to eat relative to when you're gonna go to bed at destination. And so that's how we think about it is eat to support your brain and body, and then cut it off, because if we all know that when we eat too close to bed, we don't sleep as well. It's actually a funny area of science because there's plenty of very good theories about why that is, but nobody has really locked down the actual science behind why it is. But it doesn't really matter. We know it's true. And so, yeah, you want to stop eating before, but smaller meals more frequently may also be better. So that's kind of how we think about it.
Well, I've worn the
And your
Whoop
program
since.
walks you through how to do that.
Oh, okay, perfect. I've worn the Whoop since 2019, and it's funny. Probably the most negatively uh, negative impact that I've seen on my sleep is a late meal. So if I
Yeah.
don't give myself that couple of hours prior to sleep, it is unbelievable how impactful that is to my sleep, and how, I mean, it's to the point where sometimes having a couple of drinks was better for sleep which is still awful for sleep, by the way, everybody, not something that is good, but the was better than the late meal that you have with the steak and the potatoes and all the heavy stuff that you have at the conference. It is unbelievable. And I've watched the research on my own body since 2019, just constantly paying attention to what that looks like. Painful.
Yeah, and that's why I mean, one of the things I love you talking about there is I've done a lot of coaching over the years, I mentioned that, and I've run a coaching business, and it's absolutely the case that you gotta figure out what works for you. Now, there's general principles. Almost everybody's really affected by eating before bed. There's gonna be exceptions to everything, but, like, we're talking high 90s on that one, high 90% on that one. But figuring out what really affects you and then making a decision like, "Hey, this is worth it, this isn't worth it." So I absolutely love that approach, and yeah, for me too, if I eat close to bed, it just absolutely nukes that, first part of the night, deep sleep.
So, so the platform that you've built is really something that has a long way to grow, because it's something that obviously people are suffering with, and we have to get the word out so more people know that they don't have to suffer from this. It's very important to understand that a lot of things we do because we don't know any different. But if there is a better way, then it's great to be able to introduce that. And who are the who's in your life? You know, we talk about the love, impact, faith, and energy side of life. Who are the who's in your life, or the people that are really helping to bring this message out? And what is or maybe that have helped to really bring this thing to light? Is there, any any performers that are using it more than others, or any area that you're seeing major, um, impact in?
I mean, so, what's really interesting is the broad range of people that use this. So, we sell to pro sports teams, and, NFL just played their international games, and those teams are not all of them, but many of those teams were flying with our stuff or based on our recommendations. Um, and it ranges from there to business travelers who wanna stay sharp, all the way you mentioned this earlier, like, some people have saved up for that trip to Europe for a long time and don't wanna waste that time feeling lousy. So we see pretty broad stretch, but if you think about people who travel for leisure, they tend to be a little older, and so we definitely have a pretty wide audience, but, in terms of who's helped make this a reality, I have an incredible team in the company. We're small, but I always want to call out this fantastic team of players we have, and on the app side, we have a small engineering team, but Clayton, our CTO, designed these algorithms from scratch to that are now the most powerful circadian modeling and jet lag algorithms in the world. Ben's our mobile engineer. Fauzi does the back end stuff. Mary and Blake and JL handle all the customer service to ordering to logistics. So, and that's only part of the team, but we really, Cam helps on marketing. So, you know, all these people are really fantastic and have all played a role in getting us to where we are today. And so it's always nice to call them out. And then, I'm very supportive, friends and family as well. So, I think for your point is exactly right though. Like, how do we get the word out even more? We're in partnership discussions with big players, but we are absolutely, always looking to find ways to get this to more people because it helps. And, you know, how do I prove that I care most about helping people? Sure, there's a marketing component to what I'm about to say, but like we have a full money back guarantee because it's the right thing to do also. If it doesn't work for you, and by the way, it doesn't work for, a few percent of people, and that's fine. Nothing works for everyone, but it's so broadly effective and helps so much that we get, comments all the time. We get feedback all the time, which is like, I was skeptical before I tried this, but I figured, hey, why not? And now I'll never travel without it, and that obviously feels good.
That's awesome. What about is it an 18 and older kind of adult only type of, regime, or is it something that you guys have found works for people, children as well?
So as a business, one of the things you have to think about is both effectiveness and liability, right? And
Right,
so,
right.
in general, the compounds and the doses we're using are quite safe, and but so anybody who can swallow the capsules and stuff, my scientific assessment is safe. We do only recommend for 18 and older, but for younger, we have a Fly Kit Junior where we make it with gummies. And so there is a junior version that is safe, for kids as well. And the doses are smaller and things like that. And so, we I'd say the standard fly kit pack, we don't recommend for anyone under 18 for a combination of safety and mostly liability reasons, to be honest, but we do have one for younger than that, and so you can use the Fly Kit Junior.
That's awesome. So the gummies are another way to do it. Everybody's also doing it together. I mean, I love the modeling that shows. That you're taking care of yourself when you're traveling. That you're paying attention to your body. That think of all the things as parents that we miss when we're teaching and modeling to our kids. It's a great thing to model where everybody could be doing the same thing. That's a unique and interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, we I think I think in some communities and some people, they feel bad about taking care of themselves because, "Oh, I could spending this time on something else or this resource on something else," but, like, if you don't take care of yourself, you're not gonna really be there as well for your kids. You're not gonna be as, present. You're not gonna have the energy levels, and so I think it's absolutely paramount.
When I created the life model, 20 something years ago and was first getting into business, what I created it for was my imbalance. You're constantly kind of chasing this balance that you think is something that you're going to catch. and you start to realize that you're never getting there. Like, it just doesn't, balance is very difficult. If you're building fly kit, you're going to be leaning heavily into the impact or work side of life as you go in. And that means some of the other areas may suffer. But if you're self-aware enough, you're going to be at least able to recalibrate, realign, if you will, on a regular basis. And to your point, what I found was health and energy, how we show up to the world, and faith, being foundationally grounded in something bigger than myself, were the two exponential things on the foundational side that allowed me to be better to the who's in my life and make a bigger impact. But a lot of times we get it wrong. We're aiming to kind of get to the right circle and the bigger impact, or our work success or wealth or whatever people are chasing. And the other two areas, how we show up, is really the part that's missing. And I had to work at it. It's not something that, it was this that I was so self aware of it. It was something that the more I paid attention to, the more I was able to do it. So to your point, how someone shows up to the world is extremely important, and prioritizing that makes you a better spouse, makes you a better partner, makes you a better, you know, father or mother. I mean, these are extremely important things.
Yeah, 100%. I like how you call it the base of the pyramid because that's how I think of it as well. Like those 2 things are so empowering and I think underappreciated how they interact also, you know? Um, when we are when you have inflammation in your body, it actually makes you anxious. And anxiety is something like the opposite of faith. Fear or anxiety are sort of the opposite of faith. And faith allows us to, move through these challenging times or whatever, then in ways that um, are profoundly beneficial to our nervous system and our bodies and our health too. And so I think there's a really beautiful interaction. And my goal out there is I focus on the health side for people, at least in public facing. Um, I think helping, improve people's health is a way to help them get closer, find more faith, whatever that's in. If it's in, love or God or family, like whatever your North Star is gonna be, like, I think, helping heal the body helps open people's and clarify people's eyes and ears and hearts and minds.
Yeah, it's really it's extremely valuable in that, that anxiety and that cycle of unhealthiness and inflammation and challenge, it adds up, and it makes it very difficult to sometimes find that peace. So just having that reset on a weekly basis, or whatever it is that their practice is, for me, it's weekly, at the least. I'm gonna be in a church, I'm gonna be sitting down, I'm gonna be, resetting in some capacity. And that does allow me to refocus and reshuffle, especially when life gets super busy. I always stay it's funny, when I travel, which I travel quite a bit, and I'm in New York. I always stay across from St. Patrick's Cathedral, just because I like to go into St. Patrick's and go to the 6 a.m. or the 7 a.m. mass. Because when you're in New York, everything is so busy and it's so fast, and everyone's in such a rush, and I'm already high energy. And so, like, for me, that energy is great and I love it. And there's parts of it that I'm really excited about, but I also need to kind of just settle into it a little bit. I feel like a lot of high performers are sprinters, but they're sprinters that try to run marathons in a sprint instead of actually taking a break. Like a sprinter, like the greatest in the world, will sprint and breathe and stop, and they don't run another race that day. And yet we try to pack it all in. I think what you're doing is great, because you're not only giving people their health and lowering their inflammation, but you're giving them the ability to refocus. And if we can refocus and be full mind, we can also be full body, full spirit, and kind of guide through. I think it's a bigger purpose, I guess, is what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, 100%.
That's great. What have you seen the growth trajectory? I mean, where have you come from and where are you heading? I know that you're looking at I would imagine now the big portion is the marketing push. Like, how do you take it to the next level? Is it the Nike mentality where you find the one athlete that's gonna like push you over the edge, or do you go to Dave Asprey at Biohackers and you get someone that's just teaching all the biohackers how to get this into their communities? Um,
Yeah, so,
That's awesome.
we most of our business is direct to consumer, but we are right now starting to focus on B2B and partnerships, and so we're excited about, the opportunity space there. So we'll continue to push direct consumer, continue to look at ways to get it out there, as you said, how do we find the right person? How do we show people that this is real and you can trust this? And then, yeah, how do we help companies help their employees with this? We already see it happen, for people in the venture capital world, like, Andreessen Horowitz will buy this for conferences when they're flying founders in, things like that. We see companies give these as gifts to their partners end of the year because their whole executive team uses it and they give these as gifts. You know, the head of marketing for a big car company just reached out to me on LinkedIn, was like, "Hey, one of the major car brands in the world," and said, "Hey, like, I don't like, I love this. I wouldn't want to have my job and traveling all around without this, and so, we definitely are starting to see penetration, but we continue to want to, help more and more communities try this um, and bring it forward that way.
Outside of your first story that you mentioned and the success of the gentleman you were coaching, have you gotten some kind of impactful story that you go back to a lot where you're like, "Man, I'm really glad I'm doing what I'm doing," or are you getting so many that it's hard to kinda capture?
I mean, we have a regular practice of sharing positive feedback with the company, because it's really beautiful to hear, people's experiences. I mean, I don't know. I'm just going to pull up somebody posted one in the channel in Slack today. So honestly, I didn't even read it earlier, but like, I'm just going to read you the one from today. We'll see what it says.
Awesome.
Um, I purchased this kit to go to South Korea. I followed the schedule. I never experienced any jet lag going or returning. I'll forever be a customer. And then, honestly, thought this would be another Facebook scam. Flew from LAX to Heathrow to London Friday. Got into London Saturday afternoon. It's Sunday evening. It's as if I never flew. Sold hook, line, and sinker. Here in the UK for 5 days on business and couldn't afford a day or two of jet lag downtime. If I could have tried, just amazing. Best Facebook buy ever. So,
That's awesome.
and I'll tell you one story that I really do like to come back to, and full transparent, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, those are literally just what was posted this morning in our Slack channel. Um, what I really liked was somebody was sharing, "Hey, it's not just going on the trip, performing business, or having fun. It's that then they come back home." They're saying, "Come back home and, your wife or your husband is, with the kids and has been for 4 or 5 days and would like a break, and then you come home and are just a mess." Like, that doesn't work well for your family either. So I really like somebody who shared that with me as well. It's not just the benefits of the business, the benefits of the trip, but it's also the kind of benefits to the family coming home.
You know what I was thinking is how amazing this would be to market to, uh, newlyweds. You know, if you think about the high stress that a wedding causes young people, and then they go on a honeymoon, they're supposed to just let it all go and relax, and they're at,
Yeah.
like, a 10, and now they wanna get down to, like, the 3, and they wanna make it all about the other person, and I could only imagine how many honeymoons go out and they aren't made because they're not it's hard to come down from that, it's hard it's so from the relationship perspective to what you're saying is really valuable, whether it's a family you're coming back to, whether it's that trip you're taking with someone that you're supposed to be separating from your day job to have time with, it can make a major, major difference just to be able to be more present and more prepared for what's to come.
Yeah, for sure.
It's super interesting. What's the best way for people to to capture this? Is there is it just using it for one trip that usually gets people connected? And is it kind of done by how is it sold? Walk the user through if they've never heard of it.
So, we sell two different initial kits, starter kits. One is what we call Fly Kit Domestic. That's for shorter haul flights. That's, up to 3 time zones, up to 5, 6 hours, really any domestic flight, no matter how short or long, will help you with. And that's good for a round trip. It's $29. It's not a big investment. And then if you have a big trip coming up where you're going longer than that, you're going international, then we sell a more advanced kit. It's Fly Kit International, simple names. And that's $99. Comes with these really high quality blue light blocking glasses, other things that you could pay $100 themselves with. So all the supplements you need, and both of them use the app. So you buy either your Fly Kit Domestic or your Fly Kit International, and then depending on who you are, we offer add-ons. You can choose like compression socks. We offer immunity supplement packs. We offer supplement packs for people if you're going to be drinking on your trip, things like that, that are kind of all focused to make your trip better regardless. And everything we sell is good for a round trip, and then you can refill it for another round trip. And so that's kind of how we sell it. They're all in one. Like we want to make your life easier, so they have everything in it you need, whether it's the supplements, there's a drink mix, there's glasses, all these things you need. And then you download the app, put in your flights, answer just a few simple questions about your sleep cycle and about your body, and you'll get a custom program for when to eat, sleep, and use the things in your kit. And one of the coolest things is you don't have to change anything before the morning you leave. So, some of these programs you have to change your sleep like 3, 4 days before. I don't know about you, but, like, 3 days before I'm traveling, 2 days before I'm traveling, I got more stuff to do. I'm not gonna
Right.
be able to go to bed earlier or change that, so, we have our algorithm is so powerful, and using that combined with the supplements, combined with the glasses is so powerful that basically you can, do nothing before the morning you leave, and start with that wake up time, and it just walks you through it. It gives you a notification anytime you need to change anything, and, we see fantastic results.
That's awesome. So from the days of thinking that you were gonna go into medicine to finding all the degrees that you, went out and worked through, in, and then finding this as your next chapter, what do you hope to accomplish in the next 5 years with this journey and this company?
I love travel and we want to, help people in this way. We have this really cool technology. And then I want to help people coming home too. Like, there's so much to do. My hope is that when people see how much better you can feel if you take care of your body in a sort of sophisticated, tailored way when you travel, that should open your mind to, well, what should I do when I'm at home? And we have, a lot of collected knowledge in our company about how to help manage inflammation and other things at home. And so we'll want to continue to help our customers not just when they travel, but also when they return home.
That's awesome. Well, it's super interesting. I can tell you that just in sending your website to several high performers and some of the highest of performers, you've worked with Navy SEALs and some of these other individuals, they are immediately intrigued and willing to try it. And that's one of the other things I think you find with people that are high performers is they're always looking for that edge. And if you're providing them that edge, it's always going to be something that is going to be open armed to that community for sure. And it sounds like it's really being accepted in a lot of the circles. And hope to see more of the professional soccer teams using it, professional sports using it. That would be a great way. We might get even better results or maybe someone ends up beating Tom Brady's record. I bet Brady would have been using this if he knew it existed back then, right? Maybe he'd have 8
Mm,
Super Bowls.
Who knows? Might hope so.
Well, Andrew, look, man, it's been a pleasure and an honor to get to know your experience. Tell everybody what the website is, how to find you as an individual, and if they want to help spread the message, any particular ways you hope to do that that our audience can help you with.
Awesome. Really appreciate it. So the website is flykit.com, FLYKITT.com. On Instagram, it's at flykit_travel. And if you want to connect with me directly, I'm on Twitter at Andrew Herr Bio, BIO at the end. And also, if you have a question for us directly, just go to our website, submit a form, and if it's for me, that my team will pass it on to me, and I'll answer your question directly. And what can you do to help? If you think this would help your team at your company, your team if you're in sports or others, please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to help you see the value for business travel and not just the performance there, but your team being recovered and not burning out so that they can stay with you and stay at high performance for the long term. So if anyone out there thinks this might be a benefit for their company, we'd appreciate you reach out and we can figure out some ways to get you and your team supported.
Well, at the prices you listed, it sounds like a small investment for a maximum 10x value and lots of opportunities. So, Andrew, thanks for sharing the story. Thanks for sharing your story. And I look forward to seeing this company grow where it becomes the household name people know everything they need to know when traveling with.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you liked it, there's more where this one came from. Click here and enjoy some more.